How's it going, everybody? GN here for Media Lodge, Get Zone, and Funker Tactical, continuing on with our Industry Influencer Series. Today, with me, none other than Rob Leatham. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So for those who may be watching, who's been living under a rock and don't know who you are, who is Rob Leatham?
Rob Leatham's a sensitive man. Likes long walks on the beach, sunsets, pink dyed puppies, and shooting everything he can find. Rob Leatham is a competition shooter for Springfield Armory. I've been employed at Springfield Armory for decades now, and my side job is I do training for upper level students, whether they are military, law enforcement, or civilian.
That's really interesting. So you're a competitive shooter, and yet military and law enforcement seek you out for training. Why?
Well, there is a misconception that, you know, it's like, you know, some of the dumb things that get said are like, you know, competition will get you killed on the streets. Well, the two are unrelated. Competition is a testing process to see how well you can perform under set fixed rules. It's not designed to be realistic. It's designed to be purely and simply a test of a certain set of skills in an environment that they can keep it consistent, so you can see what works and doesn't do the best. Well, any group or individual that's looking for an advancement in their shooting skills that they then want to relate to their usage might seek out somebody who's proven to be a very competent, consistent, and accurate shot. And that's where I come in.
So when you walk into a class full of law enforcement or military,
doesn't matter who they are. I don't care. I don't care who the student is.
The same thing applies. So,
well, application is really not my issue.
As far as an instructor is.
Well, yeah, from an instructor standpoint, I deal with what happens once you draw the gun. And it doesn't matter if you're a competition shooter, it doesn't matter if you're a tactical shooter, law enforcement, whether you're defensive or offensive, moving in, moving out, that's not what I deal with. I deal with the shooting elements involved that you might need. And that comes from contact point to shots that are unreasonably and way too far for the average person to consider being realistic. So the point is that they'll bring me in when they're needing some improvement in shooting skill. I'm not there to teach you tactics. I am not there to run you through drills. That's not what I do. I teach you shooting skills. So if you want to learn how to shoot faster, accurately, more consistently, that's what they bring me in for.
Is that something that's easy to do when you're training these guys? Is shooting easy? Is it simple?
No, shooting's super simple.
Super simple.
So it's super simple. You point the gun at the target and you pull the trigger without moving it. It's really that simple. The elements that people miss is they think that they can follow a couple little guidelines and make that work for any application in anything. It's like this whole concept that you can't jerk the trigger. Well, to shoot fast, you have to jerk the trigger. And if you're waiting around looking for a perfect sight picture at a distance where you don't need it, then that's killing time. In a match, I lose. In a fight, you lose. I mean, you have to learn how to do things at a level. A lot of people use the term subconscious. If you can't do some of the things subconsciously, you won't be able to think about the elements that are more important. Because in a fight, probably the least important thing for you to think about are mechanical shooting techniques. There's something else that's happening that's way more important than you consciously thinking, like, okay, now I'm in a fight, I need to be careful, hold the gun steady, I need to make sure the gun's aligned on the target and that I don't miss and fire the shot. If you're thinking about that, it's a pretty good chance you're not going to get done in time or do it well enough for the results of your shot to make any difference. So when I teach people to shoot, I'm training them to a level, it's utter simplicity. Now, there can be a great amount of complication in breaking down things to utter simplicity. But if you really break down to the pieces and teach yourself to do the mechanical movements without having to think of them and have them be keyed off of being able to shoot immediately, accurately enough for the shots you want, that's all there is to it. Now, how long did it take me to explain just an overview of what I do in a class? A couple minutes probably talking, right? The problem is somebody will pick a piece out of there and say, oh, so I'm just going to focus on this. When I shoot a competition, you know what I'm thinking about? Everything but the shooting.
Everything but the shooting.
I'm never thinking about the shooting. I don't have time because the shooting happens so fast. The aiming, the holding, the trigger pulling, the recoil control, the transitioning happens so quickly that I can't think fast enough to make that happen quick. Because because I'm thinking about where do I need to be next? Are the targets moving? What are the order of the targets? What are the sequence of the targets? What part of the target am I supposed to shoot at? What targets don't I want to shoot? Which ones am I shooting here? What I'm shooting there? So my brain, I am 100% full of not shooting when I'm shooting.
That's very samurai, man.
Is it?
That's kind of, so you're not thinking about the thing that you have to do, but it's almost like...
That just happens. That just happens. Okay, at this point, I don't think about it. I might actually be aware of seeing some sights occasionally, and I might be aware of feeling the gun recoil, but my thought processes regarding what I'm trying to cause to happen is never shooting. I don't have time for it. And I'm not smart enough to do it at that time. My brain doesn't process quickly enough to jump from what's their shoot, what's their shoot, what's their shoot. So I just teach myself to shoot without having to think about shooting.
What are some of the common problems you find yourself having to correct?
Well, it's always the same. Anymore, it's this incessant desire to focus on one single element of the visual picture. One guy's going to tell you all you ever do is focus on the target. Another guy's going to tell you all you do is focus on the front sight. That's too simplified. That's too one-dimensional. It's not telling you about the whole thing. It's telling you about one piece of the picture. So what you have to do with the simplest, from the simplest explanation, is ensure that the gun's pointed at the target. Now, if I give you pointers towards what you might see, you might misinterpret that as being the important part. But it isn't the pointer. It isn't the looking at the sights. It's what makes you aim. So as long as you aim, I don't care what your focal point is, right? So that's one of the biggest problems. And then people can't pull the trigger because they can't shoot if the sight isn't clear. The gun's been pointed at the target the whole time, and they can't pull the trigger because it's not clear enough for them to see it. Under stressful situation, you may not ever see the sight clear, but you can see it well enough to tell the gun's pointed. The next one is that we think for some reason you can't jerk the trigger. In reality, you have to jerk the trigger. To shoot quickly, and more important than quickly, is to shoot immediately, meaning ready, ready, ready now. There's no way to squeeze the trigger in 1/10 of a second. So you have to learn to jerk the trigger. You just got to learn to do it without moving the gun. But probably the biggest problem I find right now is this concept of holding the applying. We try to apply bullseye shooting techniques to fast firing applications, and it's two different things. It'd be saying like, well, I'm going to drive around in first gear all the time. Well, you're going to have to change gears. You're going to have more tools than a slow fire trigger pull. So at this point, if you're a good shot, okay, we move on to the next thing. Now I need you to be fast. Fast isn't doing the same things you do now faster. Fast is doing things differently.
Wow.
More tools, not a sharper tool.
Listen, man, you've been doing this for a long time.
That's what people bring me in for, is this out.
Do you still find joy in this process?
Oh yeah, I have to be challenged.
Okay.
If I'm not trying to work something out or figure something out, I'll get bored and I'll move on to something else. So one of the things when I'm training people is I like to try to figure problems out. I enjoy the problem-solving thing. Yeah, a lot of the answers at this point are so standardized for me. When I see that, I know this. But I love the process of watching the student shoot and say, okay, here's where our problem lies. And I like even more when I see the wheels start turning inside and they go like, that's wrong, that's wrong. I'm supposed to focus on the front sight no matter what. I like the process of teaching somebody as opposed to training. See, for me, training. Go ahead. I know you got something there. Training often is organized practicing.
Right. Man, I've interviewed some really great instructors at the NRA, and you're the first person out of all those interviews to bring that up. I usually have to ask, are you more of a teacher or an instructor? Yeah, I'm not a really good drill instructor because I get bored by saying, okay, now we're going to shoot this drill, shoot this many shots on this target, everybody do it, okay, do it again, do it better, and you'll get better if you keep doing it. I get bored with that. I want to teach you a thing. So I like to watch you shoot. Now if I see you do something, it's okay, everybody come watch this. We're going to work on that little detail, and they're going to have to figure it out from watching, but I like to pick on problems because I enjoy teaching and I'm tested by teaching, but anybody can go through a book and run you through drills. Right. You don't need me for that. I'm a complete, utter waste for that because anybody can do that. So if your training has become organized practice, that's fine, but recognize that it is practice. You don't need somebody else for that.
if you bring an instructor, I would hope you find somebody that will teach you.
Teacher has this connotation that you actually care.
Well, I do care. That's an interesting view. I'm gonna let that soak in because I never thought about it that way. I have if I talk to you over the phone and give you a drill, I have no vested interest, not interest, but I don't care about the outcome so much. You know, so if someone wants can you give me a quick pointer? I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't have any emotional investment in it. When I am with the shooter and I put my hands on him and I'm feeling what he's doing, because I can feel way more I can see. And I want to see what he's doing, so I'm poking at him and saying, you're jerking this, this, this. At that point, I make a connection in wanting to make a correction, or a change, or an advancement, or a refinement. I do. At that point, I care. And I can't care through a book.
Right. Can't care through a book.
I can't care through a book.
Man, thank you very much for this interview, Rob.
Sorry.
One of the greatest teachers out there.
That's very nice.
Somebody who really cares, man. I can tell. Even the way you explain this to me, you digest it. You care. Seek them out. Where can we find you?
Go to robleatham.com. I make myself very difficult to get into classes. I do very few of them because it emotionally exhausts me because I engage so hard. But I'm going to be doing a class with Steve Tarani later in the year, a class with Larry Vickers. I think those are all public classes. I'm planning something with Mike Sequiner sometime early next year. So.
Thank you again for your time, guys. My name is GN for Get Zone, Media Lodge, and Funker Tactical, here with with a teacher who cares, Rob Leatham. Thanks for watching, everybody.